What if the exercise advice you've been following for years is actually holding your health back after 60? That's not an exaggeration. It's what researchers discovered, and when the numbers first came in, they could barely believe them. A study followed more than 8,000 adults over the age of 60 for 5 years and found something nobody expected. People who replaced traditional walking with 5 specific exercises reduced their fall risk by 73% and increased their strength by 89%. No, that's not a typo. They nearly doubled their physical capacity while spending 40% less time exercising than those who walked regularly. The researchers were so surprised they ran the analysis again just to confirm. But what really grabbed attention, and why you need to stay until the end, is the #1 exercise on this list. According to recent longevity research, it activates cellular pathways that literally reprogram your body to function like it's younger. 94% of participants were able to do it immediately, with zero equipment. And I'm saving it for last because once you understand the science behind it, you'll never look at exercise the same way again. Before we get started, drop a comment right now. How old are you and where are you watching from? We read and reply to every single comment. Alright, let's go. Exercise number 5. Wall push-up with hold. It looks simple to work, and that's exactly where the trap is. The wall push-up with hold is one of the most underestimated movements. For people over 60, a study published in the Journal of Aging and Physical Activity found that adults who performed this exercise for just 8 weeks increased their upper body strength by 34% more than those doing traditional exercises, 34%, with nothing but a wall and their own body weight. Why does that matter so much? Because after 60, we lose roughly 3% of muscle mass every year if we don't actively fight it. And we're not just talking about looks. Upper body weakness directly connects to difficulty carrying groceries, opening jars, or catching yourself before a fall. These are movements you use dozens of times a day without even thinking about it. To do it correctly, stand about an arm's length from the wall, palms flat against it at shoulder height, slowly leaning until your nose almost touches the wall. That takes about 2 seconds. Hold that position for 3 to 5 seconds. You'll feel your chest, shoulders, arms, and surprisingly your core all engaging at once. Push back slowly, taking another 2 seconds to return. That controlled tempo activates what experts call time under tension, and research shows it's far more effective for building strength after 60 than fast repetitions. Start with 5 reps and work up to 15. Too easy, step your feet further back. Too hard, move closer to the wall. And here's the detail most people overlook: the hold. A study from the University of British Columbia found that participants who kept a hold in their wall push-ups for 12 weeks not only increased their pushing strength by 41%, but also improved their reaction time by 23%. Reaction time, that split second that decides whether you catch yourself or you fall. That's the kind of detail that completely changes the conversation around fall prevention. But arm strength is only part of what you need. The next exercise targets a completely different problem, and it's one most people don't even know they have. Exercise number 4, seated leg lifts with resistance. There's a piece of medical data that most people have never heard of, but every geriatrician takes extremely seriously. The speed at which you walk can predict your longevity more accurately than many blood tests. Doctors actually call it the 6th vital sign, and exercise number 4 was designed to improve exactly that. A study published in the Archives of Physical Medicine found that seated leg lifts with resistance increased walking speed by 28% in stair climbing, ability by 45% in adults over 60. The reason is straightforward. The exercise works your hip flexors and quadriceps at the same time, the muscles that drive every step you take, every stair you climb, every time you get up from a chair. And here's the problem: traditional walking doesn't strengthen them intensely enough to combat the natural decline that comes with age. To do it correctly, sit in a sturdy chair with your back straight and feet flat on the floor. If you're just starting out, you don't need any equipment. Slowly lift your right leg straight out in front of you, keeping your knee as straight as comfortable. The goal is to get your leg parallel to the floor, but don't push it. If you can't get there right away, hold for 2 seconds at the top, then lower slowly without letting your foot touch the ground. That's 1 rep. Do 10 to 15 on each side. The mistake most people make, not keeping their back firmly pressed against the chair throughout the movement. Without that contact, the body starts compensating with momentum or lower back tension, and the exercise loses a big chunk of its effectiveness as you progress. Add resistance every 2 weeks. Ankle weight starting at about 1 to 2 pounds, or a resistance band looped around your ankles. Work great. Research shows that muscles and bones respond to progressive overload at any age. In fact, percentage-wise, older adults often show more dramatic improvements than younger people simply because they're starting from a lower baseline and the body has far more room to adapt. You've just strengthened the upper body and the front of the legs. What comes next is something most exercise programs completely ignore, and it may be the very reason falls become more common and more dangerous with age. Exercise number 3. Standing heel raises with balance challenge. If someone asked you to name the muscle that most determines whether you'll stay independent over the next 10 years, your calf probably wouldn't be the first thing that came to mind, but it should be. A study from the National Institute on Aging found that calf strength was the single best predictor of independence over the next decade in adults over 60. Those with strong calves were 71% less likely to need assisted living and had 64% fewer falls resulting in injury. The reason goes beyond the muscles themselves. Your calves act as a peripheral second heart, pumping blood back up from your legs to the rest of your body. When they weaken, circulation suffers, swelling increases, and the risk of vascular complications rises with it. To perform the exercise, stand behind the chair, lightly touching the back for balance if needed. Rise up onto your toes as high as possible, really pushing through the balls of your feet. Here's where the challenge begins. At the top, try to hold your balance for 3 seconds while looking straight ahead, not down at your feet. That detail is what makes this exercise exponentially more effective because it engages the vestibular system, the inner ear balance mechanism that deteriorates with age. Then lower back down slowly over a full 3 seconds. The lowering phase is where most of the strength building actually happens. Researchers call it the eccentric phase, and skipping it means giving up half the benefit. Start with 10 repetitions and work up to 25. Once you can do 25 with good form while barely touching the chair, progress to one leg at a time. A Japanese longevity study found that adults over 60 who could perform 20 single leg heel raises had biological age markers equivalent to people 15 years younger, with arterial flexibility 43% better than age-matched peers who couldn't do the movement. Researchers attributed part of that difference to the muscle pump mechanism in the calves, which improves the delivery of oxygen and nutrients throughout the entire body, including the brain. Study participants showed a 26% improvement on cognitive tests after just 12 weeks. There's another revealing detail. The heel raise directly strengthens the muscles and tendons used to recover from a stumble. When you slip, your body's first instinct is to push off the floor with your toes to regain balance. Weak calves can't generate enough force to do that. The balance challenge component trains the brain and muscles to work together faster, building neural connections that sharpen coordination. Vary your pace throughout the week. Today's, go slow with the 3-second hold. One day, go a little faster, rising in 1 second and lowering in 1 second. That variation challenges your muscles in different ways and prevents your body from adapting and plateauing. Now, we're into the top 2, and the runner-up is going to surprise you with a discovery that science took decades to take seriously. Exercise number 2. Modified chair squat. First things first. If your immediate reaction was my knees can't handle squats, science has some surprising news for you. A 2020 for meta-analysis compiling 42 studies with over 15,000 participants found that the modified chair squat was not only safe for people with knee issues, it actually reduced knee pain by 58% when performed correctly. The key word is correctly, and that's exactly what we're going to break down. This exercise activates more muscles simultaneously than almost any other movement. Glutes, quadriceps, hamstrings, core, and lower back, all working at once. Why does that matter so much after 60? Because the sit-to-stand movement is something you do dozens of times every single day, and research shows that being unable to do it without using your arms is linked to a considerably higher mortality risk over the following 5 years. It's not an exaggeration. The way you get up from a chair says a lot about where your health is headed. To perform it, stand in front of a sturdy chair that puts your knees at roughly 90 degrees. When seated, feet hip-width apart, toes pointing slightly outward. This aligns with your natural hip anatomy and reduces pressure on the knees. Cross your arms over your chest or extend them forward for balance. Now, the detail that changes everything. Push your hips back first, as if you're about to close a car door with your backside. That hip hinge pattern activates your glutes, your most powerful muscles. Instead of overloading your knees, lower yourself slowly over 3 seconds. Lightly touch the seat with your backside without actually sitting or relaxing your muscles. Then drive back up into seconds, pressing through your heels and squeezing your glutes at the top. That light touch on the chair is the secret. It ensures you maintain muscle tension throughout the entire movement, which is where the real strengthening happens. A Stanford Longevity Center study had adults over 60 performing this exercise 3 times a week for just 6 weeks. The result, a 47% increase in lower body power. Power, not just strength, because it includes speed. And that's exactly what prevents falls and preserves independence. Even more remarkable, MRI scans showed increased activation in the motor cortex, the brain region that controls movement. The exercise was literally rewiring their neural circuits for more efficient movement patterns. The progression works like this. For the first 2 weeks, use a standard chair. Once you can do 15 reps with good form, switch to a slightly lower surface. Over time, perform the movement without any support at all. Some study participants eventually added light weights while squatting, and the benefits kept growing. Now we've reached number 1, and if you've stayed this long, it was worth it, because what comes next is the exercise that has most changed. What science thinks about aging. Exercise number 1. Bird dog progression. Since the very beginning of this video, I've been teasing an exercise that increased longevity markers by 42% in recent research. It's time to reveal it. The bird dog. And when you understand the mechanism behind this position, you'll see why it's generating so much excitement in the medical community. At first glance it looks odd, getting on hands and knees and extending opposite arm and leg. But that oddness is precisely what makes it unique. The bird dog is the only exercise that simultaneously addresses every major concern of aging: core stability, balance, cognitive function, spinal health, and bone density. A study published in the Journal of Gerontology in 2024 called it the single most effective exercise for healthy aging. To understand why, we need to talk about something called mechanotransduction. When you hold the bird dog position, you create specific mechanical forces on your bones, muscles, and connective tissues. Those forces trigger cellular signals that instruct the body to build stronger tissue. It's as if every cell receives the message: we need to be stronger to handle this challenge. And they respond by rebuilding themselves. Research shows that the bird dog position creates the ideal combination of compression and tension to trigger that rebuilding response. There's also something science calls cross-lateral neural firing, to keep an opposite arm and leg in the air while balancing. The brain has to coordinate its left and right hemispheres at the same time. That bilateral activation has been linked to improved cognitive function, memory, and according to reports from the Cleveland Clinic, a 31% reduction in dementia risk. To perform it, get on your hands and knees on a comfortable surface, like a yoga mat or carpet. Hands directly below your shoulders, knees below your hips. Keep your spine neutral, not arched, not rounded. Lift your right arm straight forward while simultaneously lifting your left leg straight back. The goal is one straight line from fingertips to heel. Hold for 5 seconds without rotating your hips. Lower slowly and repeat on the other side. The progression is what transforms this exercise from good to extraordinary. Weeks 1 to 2, hold for 5 seconds per side, 5 reps. Weeks 3 to 4, increase the hold to 10 seconds. Weeks 5 to 6, add a subtle pulse at the top. Lift your extended arm and leg an extra inch. Then back to parallel while maintaining balance. Weeks 7 to 8, try closing your eyes during the hold. Without the visual reference, your proprioceptive system is forced to work much harder, and that significantly accelerates balance gains. The results from a study that followed 500 adults over 60 for 2 years are hard to argue with. Core strength increased by 93%, lower back pain dropped by 76%, fall risk decreased by 82%. But the finding that most surprised researchers was something else entirely. Bone density in the spine and hips increased by 3.2%. To put that in perspective, most people over 60 lose about 1% of bone density per year. This exercise represented a 4-year reversal of normal bone aging. A team of German researchers went even further, using advanced brain imaging to observe what happens in the brain during the bird dog. What they found, it activates more diverse brain regions simultaneously than any other single exercise they tested. Balance, coordination, spatial awareness, and executive function all light up at the same time. And after just 8 weeks of practice, participants showed measurable increases in brain volume in those regions. Actual new brain tissue growth at a stage of life when most people are losing it. There's one technical detail that can double the effectiveness of this exercise. While holding the position, actively push your extended hand forward and your heel backward, as if you're trying to make yourself as long as possible. This creates what exercise scientists call irradiation. The tension spreads throughout your entire body, activating more muscle fibers and building stronger neural connections. Studies show this intentional tension technique increases strength gains by up to 40% compared to simply holding the position passively. Why these 5-beat walking is great. Definitely better than being sedentary, but it doesn't offer the specific challenges the body needs to maintain and build capacity after 60. These 5 exercises create direct adaptations against the exact ways the body tends to decline. They build strength across multiple planes of motion, challenge balance and coordination, improve cognitive function, increase bone density, and strengthen the mind-body connection that keeps you moving confidently through life. The total time investment is 20 to 25 minutes, 3 to 4 times a week, less than half the time of an hour-long walk, with superior results across every health marker measured. And the most liberating finding of all, science consistently shows it's never too late. Studies include participants well into their 80s who still show significant improvements. Your body maintains its ability to adapt and grow stronger throughout your entire life. It just needs the right stimulus. The goal isn't perfection, it's progression. Start where you are, even if that means doing modified versions or fewer repetitions. Your body will respond faster than you expect. Now tell me, what daily activity has become harder after 60 that you'd love to get back? How many minutes a week do you currently exercise? And what's been your biggest obstacle to staying consistent? Write it in the comments below. We read everything. Thanks for watching.